Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Speaking of Iowa. I'm your host Glenn Hurst, and this week we're going to be speaking about some sustainable ag practices that are going on right here in western Iowa. Well, welcome back. This past year on the campaign trail, I've certainly had the opportunity to grow an appreciation for how much agriculture and the agricultural economy affect the daily lives of Iowans. From our very first show, this has been an important issue to our campaign and to me personally. Austin and I started out talking about the impending farm crisis and different ways that that came about and how we can maybe make some changes to our farm policy to help farmers. We've also had a show about the trade war that Trump is dragging us into with China. And we talked about different ways to try to address that as well, and the importance of doing it here on the local level. My tour of Pottawatomie County this past year has taken me to some great places. We've been to many farmers markets. We've toured local farms. We've gone to meetings with local farm services and groups that help farmers come up with creative ways to protect their soil, improve their yield, decrease the need for herbicides and pesticides, and it's all been very exciting. Today, I want to introduce you to some people who are doing some really interesting things related to agriculture. These are people who are taking creative, sustainable agricultural practices and putting them to work right here in Iowa. They're making the attempt to shift us from commodity cropping exclusively to producing more food for people to eat.
Hogs and cattle are familiar livestock in Iowa, but another form of animal husbandry that has opened new local markets to farmers is beekeeping for honey production. With Obama-era legislation designating bees as livestock and protecting bee habitats, honey production has become a successful practice for Cheri Sickle, whose product is sold in local Iowa grocery stores, at farmers markets, direct-to-consumer, and in restaurants. Cheri's farm is the definition of creative ag. She is a member of the Omaha Bee Club, which she calls an invaluable resource for local keepers. When we caught up with her, she was sharing her experience with bee hobbyist Ken Bee. Are the inputs high on
those are actually
beekeeping?
Costs a little get started, doesn't it?
Mic strips,
Yeah.
No.
Well, then the box.
So, and the boxes, and you said the queens run about $30. Unless you're breeding your
Boxes
own.
alone, you can pay
110, 120.
Yeah, just for probably one box,
Three.
top bomb.
Yeah.
Then you buy your supers, and then all these are sold separate. This is separate. This piece is separate from the
Okay.
wood.
Okay.
And you assemble that, so then it gives you one piece. And you got your top, inner cover, bottoms, interest reducer. You got your outside water, inside water.
There are resources for beekeepers throughout the state. One of them is the Iowa Extension Office, which will put on programs and educate farmers about ways to safely and properly keep and handle bees.
The three main stressors we've identified that seem to have a synergistic negative effect on bees are the three P's. So pesticide exposure, pests and disease, which would be like the varroa mite, and poor forage, so just not enough flowers.
Then you worry about damage too. You got the hunters out there using the hives as bullets.
Targets.
Yeah, and then bullet ridden, or you have a bunch of teenagers like up in Sioux City.
Right.
They're just going to destroy it. So you worry about them all the time. Yeah, a good beekeeper worries about it all the time.
Cheri certainly shares the passion and commitment to her hives that we also see from our more traditional livestock farmers. And with that same dedication to her farm, she is reaping the benefits of the local Iowa food markets. Now let's meet Denise O'Brien. Denise is a Democratic candidate for House District 21, and her vegetable farm is another example of profitable food production for local lives.
In our high tunnel, we can plant things by November 11th, and we can harvest them in like February and March. And mostly spinach because it's a cool weather crop. There are some people who will only grow spinach in the wintertime.
As I've talked to local producers at county fairs and their fields and at the market booths, the issue of what to grow hasn't been raised nearly as much as issues of distribution and retail versus wholesale price. Denise's primary distribution to her end product is through a consumer-supported ag program, or CSA.
The way her CSA works is people buy in advance of the planting season, and then she has a finite amount of money to put into seed planning to produce crops, and then each week a CSA member who's bought in it is delivered fresh vegetables from the farm here.
Besides, the CSA concept is sharing the risk with the farmers, so people pay up front or they make payments through the season and then can help spread the risk. So I can buy my seeds and the things that I need, my supplies to do this, and then they throughout the season then they just put, invest up front.
For small acreage farmers who do some vegetable farming, there are groups that will distribute for them and often fetch actual retail price.
There's two really good food distributors, actually. One in Harlan called Farm Table Delivery. The other one is Lone Tree Foods, which is out of Lincoln. And both are farmer-run, farmer businesses. And so we have a whole computer software that they'll send out an email on Wednesday and say, by Friday night, tell us what you have. So I'll tell them I have 30 pounds of rhubarb and 50 pounds of kohlrabi, and then they'll market it. And then I have to take my stuff to Omaha for Lone Tree Food to market. But Ellen from Farm Table Delivery will stop at this farm because it's on the route. The reason I keep promoting community-supported agriculture is because it does support, it builds community around food, and farmers markets do too, because you talk, you visit with the vendors.
Just like there are Iowa resources for beekeepers, there are organizations that help these innovative farmers learn and expand and share their practices.
Practical Farmers of Iowa has field days, and so you can go to different farms and look and see how they're doing things. And I always bring home ideas. It's just really good. And when Larry and I decided to put a tunnel up, we went on a road trip to a couple of our friends in eastern Iowa and saw their setup and decided on this. And one of our friends had wooden frames, and it just seemed like it just went like that, and plastic, not the polycarb on the ends. So this is a movable high tunnel. Awesome. We moved it last week. These things were inside all winter. So the spinach that's growing in this bed were grown, and the leeks were there for all winter. And the carrots I planted in February, and the radishes I planted in February, and then the lettuce down there that the deer have eaten, I planted 2 weeks ago.
So it's another interesting way to begin providing food to families versus just our traditional commodity crops.
With this kind of innovation and the opportunities ahead of us, there is no doubt that Iowa can once again lead the way for the next generation of farmers. I'm Glenn Hurst. This has been Speaking of Iowa.